To the Tracy Take. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing the New Orleans Saints 3-round mock draft. We did a mock draft for all 32 teams, and so this is going to be the Saints selections here with a couple that they have. But before we do that, we have a fun announcement here. It is March Madness week, but also to the Masters coming up. There's a bunch of other sporting events coming up over the summer, and if you like putting a couple bucks down while you're watching the game, be sure to hit the link below. We have partnered with BetUSA to kind of help with some of our viewers to just kind of enjoy the sporting events a little bit more. So anything from March Madness to even come football season as well. If you want to bet on a couple of lines, hit the link below. They have a promotion going on right now for 125% match for all first-time users. So and while you're at it, be sure to like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified whenever new Tracy Take videos come out. And Ryan, let's get into it here. Let's quickly kind of recap what the Saints have done so far up to the off-season period so far. So the main one to me, they have gotten Willie Gay, a linebacker position from the Kansas City Chiefs. They also have re-signed Tyrann Mathieu as well and Rashid Shaheed. I think that those are some of the couple bigger moves so far, just because especially defensively, that was kind of one of the areas as well, and also Demario Davis too. So defensively, I've always thought the Saints have been pretty stout overall defensively. I think one of the issues that we're going to get into here in a second for them has been just the consistency on the offensive side of the ball. And so some of that as well, inconsistency. They finally cut Michael Thomas there, who I feel like he's been with them since the 90s. He's been there for so long. Jameis Winston's moved on. Jameis Winston, just a hilarious guy. He's already a video came out with him already taking snaps with the center in his work robe or whatever it was. It was very Jameis Winston thing to go and do. So I'm sure some of the Saints fans are happy to see that. But a couple other key pieces have kind of moved on defensively. So, and with where they're at cap salary wise, they need to really improve their offensive line. I think that they just haven't been able to make as many moves as some of the other teams have, just because of their cap situation overall.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like every year now we're talking about all these teams are in cap jail, and then there's just the Saints at the bottom, who at this point they're in federal prison cap jail, like they are in the most amount of negative cap that we've seen consistently over the last 3 or 4 years, and so they do a good job of reworking their contracts every year, but I do think it does limit them in going out and signing key free agents every single year. So, and then also I think you look at some of these guys like Zach Bond, Malcolm Roach, not huge losses, but guys that they might be able to retain if they weren't in so far under the cap or over the cap. So let's get into their draft here, though. Starting off, going with J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. Look at physical traits, and he checks every single box. He has the arm length, the size, the strength, the weight. And honestly, I think when you watch him on tape and you watch his games, he doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. He's really athletic. He's really good with his feet. He always seems to be in the right spot. It's just when you do see him make mistakes, they're mental. And I keep going to this play because it's the glaring one. But when he, in the national championship game, the very last, or not, the college football semifinal, when there's that last play, he's not looking at the edge rusher. He's looking inside at the ball, just not ready. And by the time he gets his head around to the edge rusher's already by him. And so some of that, I think he is 21 and just young, a little inexperienced, just needs to kind of be coached up in certain situations. But then just kind of have the discipline and whatnot that I think the Saints coaching staff could provide him, I think would be very useful to his game.
Yeah, he's one. He has all the athletic traits that's there. And it's this is such a great offensive tackle class, especially too, in this overall first round picks. Even a guy like Amarius Mims, who just freakishly athletic, doesn't have the experience nearly as much as some of the other guys in front of him. But that's where I think J.C. Latham just fits in perfectly for what the Saints are looking for. I can see other guys though as well. It's at least Fuaga as well, coming in and developing. Who's I can see those guys almost being kind of interchangeable on how teams would want to view them as well. So even guys like Tyler Guyton as well, I think could be another potential option here. I think sneaky, I would say, defensive line spot here. I know they went with Brian Breesy last year, but I think if the guys like Jared Verse falls to them, or potentially even two, if they really find the value in Brian Murphy and kind of doubling up on defensive interior, I think that those are some other potential options as well. And so,
Yeah.
I as mentioned then as well, Brian Thomas Jr., since they did lose Michael Thomas, if they want to give Chris Olave a running mate as well, I think that could be very interesting. Approach that they could take as well. But they only have so few picks. It's kind of leading into kind of the next pick as well. I do think that they're in a sneaky trade back spot as well, especially for teams who are wanting to get a quarterback here. So actually, we have them trading back and taking up the Rams' compensatory third, and then trading off one of the Saints' fourth-round picks here, moving up just a little bit. Or moving back just a little bit. So the Rams ended up taking Michael Penix Jr. with that pick. And I'll bring up a kind of a scenario here in a second once we get to the next pick. But this is where they actually do. I do have them taking the defensive line spot here, going with Adesa Isaac, edge rusher here. Great career at Penn State. Was across from Chop Robinson as well. And so if Chop Robinson falls to them, I think that they would love to go with him there, just with his overall athletic capabilities. But here, I think we're kind of reestablished, getting a little bit younger, trying to find good diamonds in the rough for the Saints team. I think a guy like Adesa Isaac could come in, pair him up with Brian Breesy and the rest of that team as well on the defensive line, and try and get after these NFC South teams who have – they're kind of just unique overall. Like the Falcons are a more run dominant team. We're going to have neat guys chase down Bijan Robinson. I would say Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to be a little more pass heavy, so going to need guys to get around Tristan Wirfs and try and get to Baker Mayfield as quickly as possible. And then you just want to have just consistent guys who can just keep dominating that Carolina Panthers weak offensive line. So I think Adesa Isaac kind of is a good overall, just well-rounded edge rusher who I think could help out against all three of those teams.
Yeah, and I think you look, Cam Jordan's getting older. They just invested in Brian Breesy, so I think you have a good defensive tackle for the future, and now you have your edge rusher of the future there. Chris Olave has kind of proven to be your wide receiver, and one of the things I've been preaching throughout the draft process is the 5 critical positions on NFL teams: quarterback, wide receiver, tackle, edge rusher, and corner. And now I know Marshawn Lattimore is getting older, so maybe replacing that position is something that they could look into, but they have 3 of those boxes, I think, checked. So let's move on now to their 3rd round pick. And this is one of my favorite picks in this draft. This is a really strong quarterback class. And one of the things that I don't want to undersell is that Spencer Rattler is a high day 2 grade, right? He really, to me, is not a first round pick because South Carolina ran a pro style scheme with like high school offensive line protections. Like it was just not as solid, like not well thought out in my opinion. And Spencer Rattler definitely made the most out of that situation. But then you go look, and at the NFL, he's going to have a slightly above average arm, but he's only going to be 6 foot, 217. He's not this like elite athlete, but he plays the quarterback position so well. And he just is always in tune with everything that's going on. He's so composed. He's very accurate with the football. And I think if you go watch him on tape, he has mistakes, but I think those mistakes are easily correctable because there are situations where he just kind of says, F it. I gotta make a play. So he throws the ball into double coverage or triple coverage and tries to play hero ball, where like in every other situation, he knows that like, okay, I'll take the 7-yard run or I'll throw it away. So I really like this fit here. Another guy I like, not quite as much, but is more of a pro style quarterback, would be Michael Pratt. I think that would be an interesting fit as well behind Derek Carr.
Yeah, I think Spencer Rattler has the tools to be the more modern day NFL quarterback, just with dual threat capabilities. It's funny too. It's like he's been in our football lives for a long time now.
Like 7 years,
pretty much. And so we've seen him develop. I think he's taken the right steps forward here. I think a team, if they have an extra pick, or like in this instance, they were able to trade back and gain this pick here. I think maybe take a flyer on him and be like, hey, why not? He's still there. To your point, though, Michael Pratt, if they're wanting somebody to be closer to Derek Carr as a backup quarterback, I could see them going with Michael Pratt overall. My one thing with this is I'd be curious if just on the if Michael Penix is sitting there at 45, and I like the trade back because I just don't think Michael Penix is the best fit for the Saints overall in this offense. But I think a guy like Spencer Rattler or Michael Pratt would be better. So and you just go back a couple of picks here to 52, still get a guy like Adesa Isaac, address the edge rusher position, then you can address the quarterback position here as well. And so I'm curious here if Saints fans think of this trade back here, or if you'd want to have Michael Penix. So leave a comment down below because I find that very curious. So the Saints, I feel like it's about the same as what it's going to be, what it has been over the past couple of years for the Saints. I feel like they're going to be about 7 to 10 wins. They just have a good enough team to get to there. Hopefully that, like, in their sake, if the NFC South doesn't develop, I think the Falcons are getting better. All three teams I think have gotten better in the NFC South around the Saints. So I'm curious if they're still going to be able to stay in that 7 to 10 win range, or if this is going to be the first year where they actually regress to more of a 4 to 6 win team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They are one of those teams every year that, like, I feel like we keep saying, like, they're going to be bad, and then they ended up being like average. And like they're in the wild card hunt till week 16, 17, and then like mathematically they'd just be eliminated at that point. Yeah. So they're always an interesting team. You can never really count them out. But let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Saints 3-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? And before we go, be sure to go and set up a BetUSA account. It helps out the channel. You can go and do your sports betting. They have some great prop bets and things for people to go bet on. So go do that. Help out the channel. And then that we'll see you guys.